The action-adventure genre is packed full of new releases every year, perhaps because it's the genre that casts the widest net. 2019 was no different, and there was an abundance of excellent new action-adventure titles this year. Here, we're gonna recognize the best of the best, mentioning our nominees for what we felt were the 10 greatest games of the genre this year, before declaring one ultimate winner. Note, the nominees and winner were decided by an internal vote held among the entire GamingBolt staff. With that, here are the nominees. Death Stranding. Death Stranding is a very unusual game, and one that doesn't necessarily fit the description of any genre very well, even though it's not the brand new genre that Hideo Kojima may have claimed it would be. But it's precisely because of its unique nature that it's so impressive. It puts almost all its focus squarely on traversal-based gameplay, which relies on a web of interlocking mechanics and systems with much more depth than one would think. Additionally, it blends that traversal-based gameplay with some excellent emergent social mechanics that lend a whole other layer to its moment-to-moment action, pepper in some tense horror and stealth sequences, and a typically bonkers storyline, and you have one of the weirdest and best games of the year. Luigi's Mansion 3. Luigi's Mansion has always had an undeniable charm and appeal as a series, but with Luigi's Mansion 3, the series took those aspects to greater heights than ever before. Using the poltergust is fundamentally fun, to no one's surprise. But considering that with smart new mechanics and tweaks, Luigi's Mansion 3 is able to enhance combat, exploration, and puzzle solving greatly. It also helps that it makes use of those mechanics in constantly inventive and creative ways, with some truly excellent level design and some of the best boss fights we've seen all year. Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry has always been more about action than adventure, and with Devil May Cry 5, that action was better than it's ever been. The game gives us control of 3 characters, each of whom feels vastly different from the other 2, with their own unique mechanics, abilities, and fighting styles. Each combat scenario feels fresh and exciting, propelled by the game's mechanical strengths and depths, while some of the bosses are flat out among the best this series has ever delivered, which is really saying something. A Plague Tale: Innocence. A Plague Tale: Innocence takes a very Last of Us approach to its gameplay, in that it isn't a game with a lot of complex systems constantly interacting with each other, but one that manages to find complexity in its simplicity, building everything from stealth to combat to puzzle solving around a unique game of light and shadow, and propping that up with a few mechanics that are constantly used in new and interesting ways. A Plague Tale ensures that players are always on their toes and always having fun. Gears 5. Gears 5 would have been a perfectly good game even if it was just more Gears of War, like Gears 4 was, but the Coalition took it upon themselves to expand the scope of the series. The ability to upgrade Jack led to a surprisingly engaging progression system, which also encouraged exploration as you remained on the lookout for more upgrade components. Meanwhile, though the open world maps could have been much better, considering how static and empty they were, there's no denying that simply sailing the skiff was a lot of fun. The Coalition can use Gears 5 as a launchpad to take the series in new and exciting directions with future installments. Astral Chain. Astral Chain bears all the hallmarks that usually define a platinum game, but it still feels remarkably different. Its synergetic action makes for a truly incredible combat system, and using your Legion and your character in conjunction to take out scores of enemies feels appropriately exciting. Beyond combat, Astral Chain is a lot of fun in other areas as well, with a much greater focus on exploration and platforming than their previous works. All of it is aided by the fact that the game is constantly throwing thrilling set pieces your way to constantly keep you on your toes. Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is the quintessential RE experience. Exploring its environments always comes with a palpable feeling of tension and dread, and you're never quite sure what's waiting for you around the next corner. Combat is slow and methodical, and just as much about deciding whether or not you should even engage enemies at all, as it is about taking them down. Puzzle solving and exploration are made stronger by incredible level design, while the indomitable Mr. X injects dangerously high doses of tension in a game that is already be overflowing with it. It's a thrilling roller coaster from start to finish, and Capcom really couldn't have done more justice to this survival horror classic if they tried. Control. Remedy Entertainment have always been masters of storytelling, but with Control, they showed that they're excellent game designers as well. The star of the show is, of course, The Oldest House, a bizarre map that is constantly throwing players off with otherworldly sights and sounds. Exploring this space is never dull, thanks not only to how unique and fascinating each location looks, but also because of how incredibly well designed it is. Combat is also a blast, and using Jessie's telekinetic powers and her service weapons in conjunction leads to some gloriously chaotic firefights. For the first time in many years, it feels like a Remedy game is just as good at telling its story as it is fun to play, which is probably why this is the best game they've ever made. Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. When it comes to a game with combat as amazing as Sekiro, there's no way it can't be an absolute blast from beginning to end. The clash of swords on swords, the perfect dodge, the killing blow on a dangerous foe, that moment when a headless, poop-flinging ape gets back up and picks up its severed head with one hand and a massive sword with the other. Sekiro is full of moments that'll stick with you long after you're done with the game. It's amazing, frustrating, horrifying, challenging, and enthralling all at the same time. Star Wars Jedi: Fallen Order. Combat, exploration, and platforming are the three core pillars of Respawn's Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and it excels in each of those areas. Platforming is quick and enjoyable, and always keeps players on their toes. Combat is slow and methodical, and combining force powers with perfectly timed parries and strikes truly makes you feel like a Jedi. Exploration is engaging and rewarding, strengthened by excellent Metroidvania level design. On top of all that, Souls-like corpse runs make every combat encounter one of high stakes, but at the same time, the game manages to approach difficulty with great balance. Fallen Order is exactly the kind of Star Wars game we've been craving for years, and we're hoping we'll be getting more of the same not long from now. And the winner is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. You expect nothing short of excellence from Software, so in that sense, it really isn't surprising that Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice is one of the most outstanding games we've played all year. What is surprising is how at the same time it manages to capture the core strengths of the Souls games, and yet still feels like a completely different beast. It is a grueling, exhausting journey from beginning to end, but it never feels unbearably so because the swelling sense of victory and satisfaction you get after overcoming each obstacle is so unbelievably satisfying. Backed by some of the greatest combat we've ever seen and typically strong level design, Sekiro is among From's greatest accomplishments to date. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, please hit the subscribe button. Also, don't forget to switch on the notifications bell icon next to it. That way you'll never miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.